Welcome to Twintopia.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Katie.
And we are identical twins. So today on our show, we have Miriam and Sarah, who are identical twins. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
And I'm Julie.
And I'm Katie. And if you're watching this on our YouTube, then you can see how much alike these two look. And it's kind of fascinating. And I'm curious to see if your mannerisms are the same. And they're here today to talk about their very much plethora of twins in their families because it's unusual.
They have a lot. So first of all, I know, Miriam, you're in Michigan. Is that right?
Yes.
And then Sarah, where are you located?
I'm in Florida. I live in Southwest Florida.
Oh, you guys live far.
We do. I was one who ended up moving away, but I travel back as often as I can. And I was just up and with my sister for 2 weeks. And so
2 weeks. Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's so nice. So what's that been like? Well, first of all, how long have you been separated by different states? And what's that been like for your relationship?
Well, Miriam, do you want to take that? We've been separated pretty much since college, right?
Yeah, pretty much since college. We went to different colleges. I think from high school, because we were compared a lot, we really did not want to go to the same college. And so I think we were pretty intentional about applying to different places and kind of finding our own way a little bit. And so I think since then I think other than you moving to Grand Rapids area for like a year, we have not ever, since leaving, we haven't been in the same area. I mean, we haven't lived in the same town.
It's about a flight away usually, or I mean, it was at least a few hours drive when I was in Ontario. I was the butterfly who flew away and, doesn't fly away, always comes back home, but I'm the one who's explored and traveled and, moved a lot more. And so, yeah, it's my husband and I and our fur baby, and Miriam has twins as well, which we'll get into a little bit more later. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So Sarah, do you kind of feel like, I'm asking you this question because we had a twin expert, Dr. Nancy Siegel was on our show, and she was very curious as to twins and their relationship with their twins' kids. Like, do you feel, and she asked us, do we feel like our nieces and nephews through our twin are the same as our own kids? Like, do you feel like that maternal bond?
No, I wouldn't say necessarily. I do feel that with my twin sisters, twin girls, she also has twin girls that are identical. Now, just to back up, my mom, when we were young, she always told us we were identical. And then when my twin sister, Miriam can tell the story, but when she had twin girls, the doctors told her that they weren't identical. And she didn't believe them. And through hearing mom said, "Oh, I just never paid for the testing. I just always told you that you guys were identical." She goes, "In fact, they told me you weren't." And so
I think that's a key, Sarah, that's a key factor, is that she was told when we were born that we were not identical. But she always believed we were. And then we both had hip surgery when we were 12. And that's kind of a crazy story, is that
12.
One of her hips slipped. It was called slipped epiphysis. One of her hips slipped in August. The following May, her other one slipped, and mine slipped at the same time. And then they decided to prophylactically just pin my second hip, because it was hip number 4, because they had all slipped. And that orthopedic surgeon at the time said, "I am 100% convinced that you two are identical." But we never had the test. My mom had been told when we were born that we were fraternal.
Why
she
was
always
she told
believed
that?
that we were identical.
Wait, was she told that because there was 2 placentas?
There was 2 placentas and 2 sacs. And so she was told that they were
identical. Because at that
we were
time,
fraternal,
they thought that was a definite
which
indication,
is even,
which now we know that's not necessarily true.
Well, it's even crazy because my twins, they turned 14 in March. And when I was pregnant with them, I was told by a high risk physician, he was adamant they were fraternal. And I said to him, "How do you know they're fraternal?" He said, "Well, the membrane is so thick between the 2 sacs and the placentas are separated so far apart that I'm sure they're fraternal." So when they were born, he was convinced they were fraternal. Everyone was convinced they were fraternal. And I had so many people tell me, "I will pay for that test if I'm wrong, but I swear they're identical." And so when they were a year, I decided to pay for the test. It was $100 to
Yeah,
send in for the
$100.
test. And I said, Sarah, you and I should do this too, just because we don't know for sure. And so we sent our test in. I sent my twins in, Caitlin and Mackenzie, and they all came back identical. So it's kind of, so I think if anybody ever has any questions, are they identical or fraternal? I don't think anybody really, because I think if it splits super early on, there's no way they can tell. There's really no way they can tell.
And I
because
think
it can appear that they're fully.
Exactly. It
and that's
depends
what
on
they're-
when it splits. You're
That's
right.
what they're figuring out, that it depends on at what stage the egg splits. And so you can be identical and have completely, that proves it right there that you can.
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of confusion about twins. Like if a doctor doesn't work with a lot of twins or hasn't done the most latest research, they don't know. They just say the what used to be believed in the past. They're not up to speed. But we, as we have a vested interest in knowing this stuff. So it's good that you went ahead and did your own research.
So let's talk about that, because you were about to say before the show started about how you two also have fraternal twin brothers, and that Miriam, you were pregnant with another set of twins. So talk about that.
Well, just the one thing I'll interject in here though too is, like, my mom went back 9 generations to search for any set of twins on both sides of the family.
Okay.
And identical twins, the other thing is identical twins are not supposed to be genetic.
Correct.
So that's the other thing. Neither was that hip surgery that Miriam was referring to. That's not supposed to be genetic either. And yet for it to happen to my one hip than both of us at the same time for hers and everything, it was just, I think there's a lot more genetic stuff involved. The other thing is after you have one set of twins, you have a 12% chance of having another set, whether they run in the family or not. So that's what happened to my mom and dad. After 4 kids, they decided one more, and they ended up with twins at the end again. So and Miriam, you can talk to.
So there's 6 of you total.
Yes,
yes,
with a boy and a girl in between.
Wow.
3 boys, 3 girls.
So you were the firstborn, and then you had a boy and a girl. Your mom had a boy and a girl, and then had twin brothers.
Fraternal
twin brothers.
Now, are you sure they're fraternal?
Oh, yes.
They are very much fraternal. They look very different.
I see.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, speaking to that too, sorry.
No,
there's
a
lag
you go ahead,
there.
Miriam, because that's what I was going to say.
I do think there are hereditary links to some identical twins. I don't think it's maybe to all, but I truly believe so, because so Sarah and I were identical, and then first pregnancy, I just had a feeling. I asked for an ultrasound early, and I was pregnant with twins. And so then fast forward to when they were 2, I got pregnant again, and I ended up having a miscarriage at 10 weeks, but I was told it was another set of identical twins.
Wow.
Same thing, 2 sacs, and it was, I had a miscarriage. And so, but
that
obviously
changes everything we've ever known about twins. I kind of wish that Dr. Siegel was on the show today.
I wish she was here with us, because she would probably be very familiar with that statistic.
You have your own case study right there in your family.
Yeah, you do. Well, and plus, like I think also what they say about identical twins, one being a fluke of nature, not hereditary. 2, they say it happens more likely with the second pregnancy, not the first. And here you're living proof that is not true.
Both of us,
right?
Yeah.
Also, they say it's like more common in older moms that get pregnant, but we've been interviewing a lot of twins, and they're like, my mom was 25 and it was her first pregnancy. And I'm just like, okay, then I don't know what to believe.
Yeah. So I was 29. It was my first pregnancy with the girls.
Yeah.
And then I went on to have
Miriam?
a single boy at 2 years after that miscarriage. So we have 3 kids.
Got it.
Okay.
But you were asking,
gonna say,
Julie, about the relationship with the kids. So I don't think in general, I would say it's different but different than my other younger sister's kids, feeling like, you know, they're more my kids versus, or nieces and nephews. But I think the relationship with my nieces that are identical twins, that's extra special. And like Miriam can speak to that too, and she can speak to it more because now she's like, one looks more like you, the other looks more like me, the one acts more like you, the other acts more like me. So it's really cool then now as we're together, you know, being able to just get together and have the identical twin pictures and, you know, sitting on the couch beside each other and just looking alike, even to my nieces.
So Miriam, do your kids just think it's really cool when your sister comes to visit, like, oh my gosh, you look so much like my mom? Like, do they seem like they're super bonded with her just because she acts like maybe has mannerisms that are like you and she looks like you? Like, do they think that's really cool?
I don't know that they really, I mean, I think they think it's cool. And there's been times where they'll like turn around quick and be like, Mom, oh, you're not Mom, you're Aunt Sarah. Or like, you know, but it's one thing that's super weird for me sometimes is when I see them or when they do something, I'm like, oh, that was a lot like what Sarah would do or what Sarah would say or how Sarah would act. And then I look at the other one, I'm like, oh, that reminds a lot of me, like that. She reminds a lot like Caitlin. I think she looks a lot more like me, and Mackenzie looks a lot more like Sarah, whereas I think Caitlin's personality is more like Sarah and Mackenzie's is more like mine. And it's just kind of this really super weird dynamic to like feel that one looks more like me and like to kind of compare them to Sarah and I, like, and I don't really, it's just subconsciously that I do it sometimes, or I think that.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, my sister has one boy and I have a boy and a girl. And I feel like my daughter looks more like Julie than she looks like me, which is really strange because I gave birth to her, but you know, we're identical twins. So I guess that makes sense that she could just as easily look more like her. The things that make me different from her is what my daughter looks like.
Our brother always says that his daughter, he feels like looks a lot like me.
But not like me.
He doesn't say that she looks like you.
You have only your brother, or is there any other twins in your family?
No, just our brother.
Just your brother.
Yeah, and he's
then we have second cousins. So our grandmothers are sisters, and they are twins, and they are identical twins.
Yeah,
and
Brenda and Linda.
Brenda and Linda. We don't know of any other twins in our family. That's all that we know.
That's cool. That's cool.
There are, and it's kind of with all the twins, it is kind of weird. My husband's mom is a fraternal twin, and he's got a cousin who has fraternal twins as well. So it's like, there's just like, and I don't know how much it carries in the husband side at all, but.
Well, maybe that's a factor in the fact that you're a twin, your husband's got twins in the family, but I mean, clearly your family got them. Anyway, was your mom and dad just floored when they found out they were having another set of twins?
Oh, I think so. Because I think my mom was like, my dad would have been done after 4. My mom was like, oh, I just really want one more. And then it was another set of twins. So Sarah and I were 8. I remember I think we were 8 when David and Daniel were born. And so I remember it was like, come home from school and we'd each get a kid. Like we'd each get David or Daniel.
Here you go.
Well, I know. And then the other thing, when we were 10 years old, which was as tall as a cow, my twin sister and I started milking cows and helping in the barn. So we lived on a dairy farm and we milked cows morning and night then till we graduated.
Wow. What a neat way to grow up.
That's like a really old-fashioned situation. Like you have lots of kids and you live on a farm. That's like, you know, how our country started, right?
Well, clearly your parents weren't scared of a lot of kids if they were going for a 5th.
Right.
No, I know, right? Well, it was a good, nice. I mean, my sister and I both look back on our growing up with a lot of love and, you know, knowing that our parents did a great job raising us all.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun way to grow up on a farm.
And now, do either of you live on property and to have any part of that lifestyle in your current life?
No, and we both chose different paths. I mean, you know, so Miriam went the same path as my mom. She became a nurse and RN. throw out myself at the sight of puke, or the smell or the thought of it. And so I can't handle with the yuckiness. And so I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I actually did forest firefighting when I was in college. And then I was like, oh, I want to be a police officer. And so I went through 2 years of law and security. But because of their hip surgeries, I was living a very active life. And I was having hip problems. And a sports medicine doctor told me if I wanted to walk when I was 40, I had to stop my physically active lifestyle. So I fell into sales and did really well in sales and business, and was transferred down, was determined to get my green card without getting married. And at that point, Miriam was living in the States, but I was one of the ones my dad always said, of his 6 kids, I was most likely to move south. I'm really not a fan of the cold, and we grew up in Southern Ontario. I got my green card 2 months before I met my husband, and I was living out in California at that time. So, my husband jokes that he is my plan B. But yeah, we've moved from California to Missouri to, like Miriam said, Michigan. She was so excited, and we were both excited. It was, probably the closest, the first time we've ever lived in the same city. But I really don't like the cold. And when my husband got an opportunity for a job down in Florida, we took it, and that's where we've been living since 2017. We're like, family can come visit where it's warm. So yeah.
And I bet you get a lot of visitors.
Well, yes, and COVID impacted all that, but yes,
that's true.
Certainly, but we do try to intentionally certainly get together as a family. This year, my husband and I are going on a cruise with Miriam and her family, and that'll be my first cruise, but also together as a family and with the twins and everything. So that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, we intentionally do family things together.
That's great. And how old are your twins now, Miriam?
14.
They turned 14. Yeah, 14 in March. So it's crazy. They're about as tall as me, 5'10", 5'11". They're both pretty competitive. They're both pretty competitive hockey players. So they both play ice hockey, and so it's kind of fun. So yeah.
Oh, that is fun. You live in a great place for that.
So I have a question, because we've talked a lot on the show. We haven't gotten too much into the fraternal versus identical, but since you had both in your family growing up, I'm just curious, because we've talked to people who've had multiples where there's identicals within the group of multiples and fraternals. You know what I mean? That's pretty common. So the mother of quadruplets that we had on the show has 3 that are identical and 1 fraternal out of those quadruplets. And then we know a woman that has triplets, and 2 of them are identical, 1's fraternal. And in both these cases, the ones that are identical are closer, like a closer knit group than the one that's fraternal. So have you noticed that with your brothers not being as connected as far as personality and relationship as you two were growing up?
Yeah, I don't think our brothers are all that close by any means. No more than, I don't think any other siblings. I don't think they have a lot in common. They're certainly not very close. And I think over, just life in general, Sarah and I, we go through phases where we're closer, and then other times where we're not as close. And I think life, we just have very different paths in life. And, but I think at the same time, both of us, know that regardless, it's just a phone call or text away. And sometimes you go a week where we don't talk, and then other times it's 4 or 5 times in a day. So it's just, it's kind of one of those. Yeah.
But when you were little, were you kind of connected and did all the same things together, whereas your brothers maybe didn't, or did you not find that to be true?
I think because
to
we were
some
twins,
extent,
we were put together a lot.
Yeah, we were put together a lot. I mean, I remember that for a long time, I didn't like pink or red, because when we were young, I always had the pink or red, and my sister got the blues or green.
Yep.
So, but then I also remember how from a young age, I wanted my own room, and my younger sister got her own room, and my twin and I had to share. So I would negotiate with my younger sister, who got along very well with my twin sister, and do extra chores and whatnot to be able to swap rooms so that I could have my own room. So I think that, you know, yeah, some of that, it was like Miriam says, is because we were put together so much, we wanted to, you know, and I don't know if I felt that more than you, Miriam, but I know I really felt that strong sense of I wanted to have my own friends. I wanted to figure out what it was that I liked and not just do things together. Whereas, you know, like now her girls are looking at high schools and they were going to go to different ones and said, one said, no, I want to go to the same one as you. So I don't, and I was thinking about that. I was like, would I have made that same decision? No, I probably would have stuck with the special aviation high school that was an option. So that's probably what I would have done. But, you know, but yeah, it was interesting what her twins decided to do.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. There's an aviation high school that is a choice. I want to go there.
It's a charter high school that's that's about 10 minutes
Grand
away from
Rapids.
us. It's really cool. One of the twins was just struggling with friendships and stuff this last year. And I think it was just, I was like, hey, do you want to go check out this open house at this other school? Like, and I think it was just having the conversation and opening up the door to saying, hey, there are options and you don't, you know, you're not stuck with just going with the main high school that's in the area. And so it was kind of interesting. So we went to the open house and Caitlin's like, Mackenzie, you got to come along. And Mackenzie, like begrudgingly, was like, okay, I'll come along. Well, then it turned out that if they both applied, if one got in, they both got in. So Mackenzie said, I'll apply to give you another chance. And so they both applied, but Mackenzie was pretty sure she did want to stay at the other high school that in our district. And turns out they did, but Mackenzie's like, oh, I really want you to stay at the same high school as me. And Caitlin's like, but I really want you to go to this other high school. But they both wanted what was best for each other. Well, then it turned out they both did get accepted, or they got accepted. Well, then Caitlin decided that she was just going to stay at the district high school anyways. And I guess she told me that it was because there was more electives, but I guess she was talking to our mom about it, her grandma, and she said, well, I just decided I really did want to be at the same school as Mackenzie. So they're different, but they're really close, I think, too. Yeah. So
they wanted to stick together.
Well, I can relate to what you were saying, Sarah, about wanting something that's your own and wanting your own friends. I went through that phase in high school, which I think to this day kind of hurt. You know, my sister looks back on it and has hurt feelings about it, that I wanted my own friend. And so I did. I became friends with somebody that was fine with just me being her only friend, which excluded Katie. And but I wanted it that way. I wanted somebody that was just my own friend that I didn't share with my sister.
But that wasn't really possible because we didn't have a car yet. We were 14 years old. And so it's like, if she's going to this friend's house after school, I was going with her because our mom was only going to come once to come get us. So it was like, I ended up hanging out with the two of them a lot as like the third wheel. And it wasn't a very fun year for me.
Well, that's one of the things that actually is kind of lately, my husband, like Mackenzie, just the other day got invited to go to the pool with a couple of her friends. And Matt's like, well, why wouldn't Caitlin go? Why wouldn't she just bring Caitlin? And I was like, and he's like, I just don't get it. And he's like, so many times, like, why don't they just hang out with each other's friends? I'm like, I get it. Caitlin doesn't even want to hang out with Mackenzie's friends. Mackenzie doesn't want her there. And they want to have their own group of friends. And I know that, I think it's just different with guys and boys than it is with girls in relationships. And I think that especially with identical twins, to be forced to be in your sister's friend group, it just doesn't work that way. You're still very different people, and you're
different people. And sometimes you just want something that's just yours, because when you spend your whole life sharing everything, I mean, not everyone feels that way, because Katie didn't ever feel that way, but I just feel like sometimes that it's natural to want your own things.
Well, and I think it's all part of growing up too. You have to go from dependent on your parents to independent and have your own ideas and values. And the same goes with your twin. Like, you have to be your own individual person, separate from your twin, separate from your parents. You have to find your way in the world, and they're not always going to line up. But it's interesting because we just talked to, like I said, the queens of last year's Twin Days Festival in Ohio. and they have the same career. And they said, when we go to the festival in August, we're going for the first time. They said, you're going to meet a whole bunch of twins that live together, that never married, that have the same career, that spend every minute of every day together, and like make sure that they dress alike head to toe every day of their lives. And I'm like, really? So like, it's fascinating to me.
There's different levels of
There's
twinship,
different
for
levels
sure.
of togetherness for sure. And I don't know where we're going to fall in that continuum.
I think we're going to be probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, you know, like, I mean, for example, like for our 40th birthday a few years ago, like there was nothing more than Miriam's husband was like planning a party. What about this? What about that? Meanwhile, my husband's like, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to go away with you and Miriam and Matt, like the four of us, because the four of us together do get along so well. And we so enjoy each other's company. And so that's what we did for our 40th birthday. The four of us rented a house in Fort Myers and we hung out for a week.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
it's great like when the husbands or the spouses, whatever, get along.
So they like each other, it sounds like.
Well, they do. The thing is hold on. It's because I'm the wild child, if you will. I got married to the wrong guy in my 20s, one that Miriam didn't like, and then got divorced and said I'd rather be by myself than be with the wrong man. And I waited almost 10 years, and I had met my husband in an airport on the way. He's a pilot, on the way to visit my sister at Christmas 10 years ago. And
wait, what? You met your now husband on the way to visit your sister?
Yeah, and he's from California, and he actually was living 5 minutes from my twin sister in Michigan, and I was living in California at that time. And so anyways,
not fate, I don't know what is.
I know, but the thing is that so he spent most of that family Christmas with myself and my family. And afterwards, my brother-in-law, Matt, had said, I don't know if I would have met the family that quick. And my husband said, he says, well, I figured who has that opportunity? If I don't like the family, then, check out, in and out. Thank you. Nice to know you.
Especially where there's a twin involved.
Yes.
Right.
That would be a deal breaker, maybe.
Yeah. But the thing for me is that I knew I liked this guy, but I didn't know that he was, like I was still vetting him, if you will, you're dating, right? And so I don't know, it was a couple months later, and it was a texts that were completely innocent between Miriam and Christian. And I got so upset about it. And I said, why are you messaging my boyfriend? Like, I haven't even vetted him, but it was one of those things, like, I knew that he had her approval from the very beginning.
Yeah.
She saw him as part of our family, and me freaking out about it. It wasn't something like, at the time I was pissed. I was annoyed. And upset, but in looking at it, it's like, that is so important that my sister loves my husband, that we all get together and we can go together and be together, because for a vacation or for a birthday or something, it's Miriam that I want to go see,
especially given that your first husband, Miriam, you didn't like him, or vice versa.
No, I did not like him. I didn't, and I mean, but she was being her independent self and didn't want anybody's opinions. But I think she knew that I didn't like him. I didn't mince words with that I didn't like him right in the beginning. I mean, but again, it wasn't like, she was really wanting my opinion either then. And so, sometimes, and that's, I think that's just how it is in life. You don't always agree, but, you kind of always know what the other one's thinking, whether it's, or what the other one would say, or.
Exactly. It helps to like your twins' choice in life, though, because Katie and I had the exact same situation where she married a guy in her 20s that I didn't like, and he didn't like me. And then it was just so refreshing when they split up. And then I was so worried she was going to pick another guy that we didn't like. All of us were thinking that, my husband, because he didn't like the first husband. And then, our brother didn't like nobody. The first husband was not a good match for her. And so we were so worried that she was going to do that again. And then we met David, her now husband, and we were just like, oh, we love him.
Yeah.
I think
we dated some duds in between too, but my family knew, and Miriam knew. Yeah. Sorry, Miriam, you were saying especially with.
No, I was just saying, I think with twins, like, especially if you're, identical or you're fairly close, I think you've got a pretty good feel on whether someone's right for them or not. you know, and if they don't like them, I think it really should make you strongly consider whether that person is right or not, because
I
Yes.
agree.
your twin really knows you better than anybody, whether or not you like that they like
Yeah.
that or not all the time.
Yeah, I think that all young twins that are, you know, going into their dating years, they should keep that in
Sure.
mind, because
But
that
you
is
can't
really
tell them
important.
that, like, you wouldn't have listened to me
I
at the time.
know. I didn't listen to you at the time. You actually came out and said it. I don't think you should be with him, and I'm really stressed out that you're marrying him. Like, you didn't hold back.
No.
But I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to end the relationship yet.
Yeah,
I had
and
to do it in my own
sometimes
time.
we're ready. Yeah, exactly. It's the own time, and it's also, you know, like now my husband, he's like, you know, what you went through made you who you are today. And I've said to
Absolutely.
him, you know, back in my 20s, I would not have appreciated my husband for the amazing man he is. And you know, I would like to say I would have, but I don't think I would have, you
I
know.
feel
So
the
it's
same
what I
exact
went
way.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that all the time. Like, my heart of gratitude is so big for my husband because of what I went through. Like, I think my husband he tells me that he dated a string of women that didn't appreciate his kindness and his gentle nature. And I think I might have been in that camp. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I just know that I am very grateful for the person that he is, because of all that I went through and realizing what I definitely don't want in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny. What a coincidence that you went through that same scenario between
I
you two.
know.
Yeah, I think that's probably, we're going to find that that's a common story, that like there is sometimes that person that the twin doesn't like. And I think, I don't know if this was the case for you, Sarah, but with my ex, he was purposely trying to come between us. Like, he was jealous of my relationship with
jealous.
her and didn't want to do things with her and her boyfriend. Like, he didn't want anything to do with our twin relationship.
And was saying things negatively about me too, Katie. And then she was saying those things about me. Like, I remember one time in college, Katie, you came in the apartment and said something about me being selfish, like a general statement about me. And I'm like, that's not something Katie would normally say about me. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, did you, you know, I won't say his name, but I'm like, did he say that about me? And she said, Katie goes, yeah, actually he did say that about you. So I'm like, okay, so he's talking bad about me.
Yeah, he was trying to replace her as my person.
I think, you know, like, and certainly he didn't want to spend time with my family. Miriam was living a few hours away, like even further than my family was. But yeah, if it was family things or, you know, there's always going to be red flags. And even when we're young, you know, whether it's Miriam telling me, whether it's my dad and my parents telling me, I had enough people telling me that it was wrong. And then I saw the red flags and, you know, I thought, well, yeah, we can get through it. And, you know, it's love, and it wasn't. And you know, but at the same point, you know, we learn, and we can choose to learn from our mistakes. And you know, now I have an awesome guy, and I don't have 3 little kids like Miriam does, but I go there, and then we get to get our breather and get our quiet place.
Yes. You can have both ways.
But I love what you said about you can appreciate the relationship you have now, and it's changed you in a good way. And it sounds like you can appreciate your time with your sister and your spouses because you all get along so well. And there's a sense of appreciation about that.
There is. And I think that is really important, because certainly, you know, like if the spouses didn't get along, then it's not like, you know, that's one of my most recent, very awesome memories is of us taking that trip together for our birthday. And like, that's one of those, you know, I know that I'm still looking forward to this cruise again too, you know, because of that. So doing things together where we can, rather than just popping up, and sure, I stayed with her for 2 weeks, but it's not the same as, you know, going and intentionally enjoying each other. You know, life is busy if you're just at home.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So Sarah, tell me about, you said, sorry to change subjects here, but you said when you initially contacted me that you were wanting to start a podcast, and I didn't find out more about that. Is it a podcast about twins, or tell me about that?
You know, I actually had stumbled on your podcast and I was just really curious about it and exactly about twins and exploring different things about it. So I was interested in learning your experiences with it. And also, like I said, is in listening to the different shows. But I think, like you said, it's that understanding of what happens with twins, what the dynamics are, and or even how, you know, like how genetic, I think, if you will, and things that happen even as twins now. Like I can, you know, I might be traveling from a different state and we're together last year, and I think I sent you guys the picture, and literally she comes down from upstairs and I up downstairs to upstairs, and we're wearing the same outfit, like jeans, red long sleeve, like a crew neck type of little fleece, like exactly the same outfits. Wow. Now we've done that from like going to my grandpa's 70th birthday party, her driving 3 hours from south, me driving 3 hours from north, and meeting up, and I got there late and my aunts are like, have you seen your sister? And I'm like, no, why? And they're like, go find her. And literally exactly the same, khakis, brown sweater, both of us with a necklace on, like identical. Wow. And so, you know, or college, you know, what are you doing right now? Eating mushroom soup. What are you doing? Eating mushroom soup.
Oh my gosh.
So like it happens and it continues to happen.
Doesn't it
so
make you
I just
wonder
think that's
like
cool.
how many times
cool.
that happens when you don't discover it because you live in different
Right?
places? Like you're walking around your own hometowns in the same outfit probably a lot, and you just never,
I'm sure.
You just don't know it.
I know. The best way we can fool people is actually for me to borrow her clothes or her to borrow my clothes. And certainly I know you guys know, but at times in life you look more alike or less. And for the most part, we have continued to look pretty much alike throughout the years. So it's just cool. Like I said, is to swap clothes. And we did try to fool my parents once. I flew in it was a Thanksgiving weekend, and my sister had been away for the weekend. Now she had just had the twin girls, and so they were really young, and I'm not a mom, so you can imagine me going in and trying to pretend that I'm their mom. But my brother-in-law picked me up at the airport, and then Miriam hid until the reveal. But my parents, it took them, like I walked in with my brother-in-law when, oh, girls, and we practiced how I was going to say it to sound like Miriam and everything. And then my brother was there, who I wasn't expecting. He's like, what are you doing here? And I kind of thought, he doesn't know that I'm here. Like he should think I'm Miriam. So yeah. My younger brother picked up first, and then it was probably about a minute or two later, Dad's like, yeah, what are you doing here?
That's so funny. So you weren't able to fool them like you hoped to, it sounds like.
No, I think I was trying not to say too much, and or because it's true, like Miriam says, it's so the mannerisms and our who we like. Even Dad says when I call, he's like, you know, you can hear him pause on the end of the phone waiting for us to say a couple sentences to go, oh, hi, it's Sarah. So, and sometimes I'll intentionally not say it's Sarah to see how long it takes him.
Yeah. That's funny. Fun. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Miriam.
No, I was just going to say, like, even in terms of looking alike, whenever Sarah comes, if she's out walking our dog or anything, I mean, neighbors have started having these full-on conversations, and she comes back, she's like, well, I just heard about this neighbor who told me this big, long story, and she said, I know they thought it was you. Like,
I didn't have the heart to interrupt them as they're going on. How was Hawaii and this and that? And they're just talking. And I'm like, I went back, and by the end of one walk, like 3 neighbors had yelled out, hi, Miriam. Oh my gosh, you're back.
So then she just waves.
Well, it kind of freaks people out when you tell them that you are not who they think you are. So
it does.
Very much so.
That's funny. Yeah, we did that at my work when we were in our 20s. I had my sister come over, and hold on a second.
Oh, we lost her completely.
Yeah, we lost her.
Yeah, that's the problem on a phone, is that if a call comes in, it can totally mess up your Zoom call.
Oh,
it's better on a computer because that can't happen.
Yes.
Did you guys do the swap then, Katie?
Yes, we did a couple times. Like in elementary school, we did it a couple times. We switched in some high school classes. We switched on a boyfriend once, and he did not like that at all. Like our friends, you know, it was one of those high school relationships that probably were going to last 2 weeks anyway. And I didn't have a boyfriend and she did. And so we went back to the bedroom and switched clothes and came back out. And I sat next to her boyfriend. And We were doing good. I was just doing like you said. I was trying not to talk a lot and try not to like let my personality out. And so I'm just sitting there quietly on the couch next to him, and then he starts rubbing my hand. And at that point, I burst into laughter because I couldn't handle it. And then he didn't have a sense of humor about it at all. Because the whole room was in on it except him. And so they broke up after that. And then we did it a couple times. Like I'm a teacher, and I sent her into the cafeteria at the school where I work, and everybody was like, "Hi, Mrs. Doak. Hi, Mrs. Doak." And then I walked in, and then they were like, "There's two Mrs. Dokes," and they were kind of freaking out.
But they loved it. They loved it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that. My husband was trying to call me. He calls me every day on his lunch break, and I was trying to say no to that so that it was not make my phone ring, and I accidentally hung up on you guys.
It's okay. You're back.
Technology.
Yes, this is how Zooms are. Like even on a professional meeting, like you can be having all these weird things go wrong. I had a lizard approaching me on the floor when I was at a work meeting on Zoom, and I was like really scared that the lizard was gonna like crawl over my foot or something.
Where were you out? Were you outside?
No, I was in my family room, but the house was new to us, and we had a lizard problem, which I didn't know about. And I was freaking out, but I was like, the camera was on me. I was participating in the meeting. I couldn't just leave, but I was like, it kept getting closer and closer. And I was like, what do I do?
So what did you do?
I think I put in the comments, because it was just a small group meeting. It was like 10 of us. And I put it in the comments. I'm like, you guys, I'm having a situation. I'll be right back. And so I went and I took care of the lizard. I put it in a jar and put it outside, but it was scaring me.
That's funny.
That's really funny. Well, I know that you ladies have to go soon, so maybe we should do our closing.
Did you cover all your questions, Julie?
I did, and I loved hearing your stories about
Me too. It's so
just all the fun twins in your family. What a cool story.
Yeah, there's like two of everybody.
I know. When I saw about you guys interviewing different twins, I was like, I think our story's pretty cool too. And I think also that, you know, like I mentioned, is a lot of people don't know that stat and about, you know, if you just randomly have a set of twins, or you have a set of twins that you have a much higher percentage, like 12% of having another set of twins.
Whether that's identical or fraternal, right? You have
whether it's identical or fraternal, just because you have a set of twins.
They're just finding out more stuff every day, I feel like, about twins. We're a mystery for science to solve.
Right. We are, but I think
I'm jealous that you got to have you, Miriam, got to have twins, because I really wanted twins, and I don't know. I like twins, so it's nice that for you two that you get to be around so many other twins just in your family.
Yeah. Great. I will say that my twins they were the hardest when they were newborns, and they're still probably the hardest. I mean, just even, you know, just juggling the dynamics of that and trying to obviously, I have a firsthand of knowing what it's like to have identical twins. So there's times with my husband and things that I'm like, no, just because they're twins, or you know, that you're just more sensitive to things that you normally might not have been in tune with, but
you have that perspective.
So you're not just mother of twins, you are twins. So you have a lot of perspective of, you know, what you liked and didn't like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you could also, you know, what was I going to say? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. We got to get going.
It's gone.
It's gone. It just left me.
Yeah.
Well, it was very lovely.
Well, it was nice talking to you both.
Yes. It was nice meeting you both. And hey, are you going to the Twin Days Festival in Ohio by any chance?
Not this year.
No plans.
I mean, I think at some point it'd be cool for all four of us to go, but I think that's probably years down the road, when the girls are past their teenage years, and probably when they really appreciate being twins, and maybe Miriam and I have more time. But yeah, it's not on. It's cool to see now, but it's like, oh God, like Miriam, she's got such a full schedule.
Yeah,
sure.
But is that how you found our podcast? Was on that Twin Days fan club page?
No, I was just looking up twins and twin podcasts because I do think it's a pretty cool thing. And so I stumbled on your podcast and I'm like, this is cool. Twins
Yeah.
are talking about their twins and,
Thank
talking about it in, whether it's, lifestyle and choices and the way that we live and our relationships now. I think it's good. It's good to talk about. Best of luck to you guys and continue on with the podcast. And if we can meet again or you want to chat again or have any other questions, reach out.
Okay,
We very well could.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
ladies.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.